Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jamie Vogel, the EVP of Sales and Marketing here at Transportation Impact. Welcome to the next episode of the Let's Talk Ship discussion series. Here we are, March 2021. Those tasked with procuring carrier partners are facing some unique challenges, some that they've either haven't faced before in their career or either haven't faced in a while. So today you're in for a treat, a passionate and real discussion on the topic of procuring carrier partners. We encourage you to ask questions by utilizing the questions section on the webinar pane. We'll take the time to answer as many as we can at the conclusion of the discussion. So my guest today is Chris Jolly, hashtag the Freight Coach. Welcome, Chris.
Hey, Jamie, thank you so much for having me today.
Yeah, absolutely. Chris, just tell the audience, how we met and how this came about. We met you on a recent FreightWaves podcast you attended with our national sales manager, Rachel. And I got to say, wow, we were all just so impressed with your energy and your passion and your perspective. And we thought, whoa, our audience needs to hear this guy.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it. I didn't pay her to say that either. I promise everybody.
So just to give the audience a little bit of your background, you've been in the transportation business since you were 20, starting in the warehouse. You've had various operations and sales roles and ultimately brought you to some leadership roles at some pretty notable companies. But you left all that big corporate world behind to start your own business, the Freight Coach, bringing that same energy and passion and expertise to brokers, 3PLs, please, hope I won't mess this up, tech startups and asset-based carriers. So tell us how it's going.
Yeah, it's been a wild year for everybody, to say the least. But yeah, it was about this time last year that I was a broker for almost 10 years, and I was just ready for a change. I wanted to try something else in freight. So my whole plan was to actually jump over to the asset side, sell over there for a few years, and then make a play at senior leadership. I resigned from my job on a Monday. By Thursday, that little thing called COVID became COVID, and by Friday, everything went away. All the interviews, it was all pushed off to like July. And I was like, all right. So I, had to make best of my time. And I got involved on LinkedIn, and I had a big focus on networking with absolutely everybody I possibly could, because I wanted to be candidate number one when they did start hiring again. And then I had a fairly large broker reach out to me about helping out one of their sales reps, because I had specialized in open deck and heavy haul for the last 3.5 years that I was brokering, and they wanted to offer it as a service. And I was like, best case scenario, they'll offer me a job, right? Job offer never came, but the light bulb went off in my head that if they need help with training, who else out there needs help with training? So I filed my LLC the next day, and since May 1st of 2020, I've been going at it on my own, working with carriers, brokers. I actually work with a couple of shippers as well out there on a lot of things, freight related.
That's awesome. Super inspiring. It's not easy to, venture out into the world and start your own thing without any guarantees, especially during a pandemic. So congrats.
Definitely. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Well, let's get to it. Vetting carrier partners for peak performance. And Chris, I want to go beyond the usual scorecard approach to measuring carriers, on-time delivery and audit, because I think, folks procuring carrier partner relationships, and I'm going to stress, we got to stress that word partnership, because it is a partnership and there's strategies behind building those. It's not, just a one-off, I don't think anymore, because, from where I sit, we're seeing it every day. Our customers are putting their customer experience in the hands of the carriers, and customer experience has never been more important with the e-com boom. And from my view, I just don't see, not very often anyway, companies thinking that all the way through their customer experience and how they're putting that in the carrier's hands when you choose a partner. So I'm curious to get your thoughts on that.
No, I agree wholeheartedly. It's one of those situations that when I'm picking up for my customer, I'm delivering to their customer. So it's like, what am I doing as a provider to ensure that all parties involved are, accurately informed throughout the entirety of the shipment? And a lot of those things boil down to, it's always going to boil down to communication with me, no matter what. Doesn't matter what you have out there, and then especially making my customers' experience better, because like we've all been in this industry long enough to know that things go wrong. And that's where, like, anybody who sells themselves on, on time percentages, like that's the expectation is for, everybody to show up on time. But it's like when things go sideways, where are my providers at?
Mhm.
Did they know? Because like my big thing is always notifying the receiver before I tell my customer of a delay, for example. I'm letting them know. I'm letting them know the ETA. I'm rescheduling it if I have to. And then I'm bringing that solution to my customer. Hey, this is what happened. We're good. We spoke with this individual. The partnership isn't just, hitting accept and hoping everything works out. You got to take it 10 steps farther than that. And I think like if you're out there working with any of your providers and they don't do that, because it's like, to me, where's the value add as a broker? Like I'm an intermediary. I need to make their lives easier. I can't
Mhm.
add problems onto anybody's desks.
Yeah. That's so true, and I'm glad that you mentioned that, because I think that sort of speaks to like being super clear about your expectations when you're vetting a carrier partner. If your expectation on-time delivery and having a correct bill, in my head, that's table stakes.
Yes.
And what are the customer service expectations that you have for your customers, or what are those KPIs surrounding that? So tell us a little bit about how you think folks procuring those carrier partner relationships can make their expectations clear, and what should they be?
I mean, to me, as a broker, I think like the greatest mistake that we make is really biting off more than we can chew.
Mm.
Like if a customer comes to us with, say 5 same-day shipment opportunities, and we're like, oh, just send over all 5, knowing that we can only cover 3. I think that's like, it's just such a fatal error to make. And it's like, being like, it's because if I have the capacity, if I can source that right now, I'm going to be able to provide you with driver information, truck numbers, trailer numbers, the whole nine. And setting that stuff up front, I think is key. And then especially like a seasoned broker or a seasoned provider is going to come to you with these things right away. How do we source same day capacity? What are your in regards to like accessorials and stuff like that? What do you look for? What do because it's like those conversations are needed up front. You can't have those heat of the moment conversations, because then things spiral quick. So it's like I advise all of my clients now to bring up a lot of those things right away to ensure that, identify some of these things like our real value add, talk about them right away. And then, because you never know, you might be providing a solution to something that they've struggled with
Right.
forever. And you're not going to have it if you keep it to yourself, because like I mentioned, we all know things go wrong. And and the right provider is going to come to you with a layout of how they handle their SOPs when things happen, because like the bare bones basics of this industry will never change. And we can't overcomplicate it with buzzwords and everything else. Like this is a service that we provide.
Yeah. That's so true, and I think that if we think about that a little bit deeper,
Mhm.
setting your expectations clear. Here are my customer service expectations. What will the communication be? And I think if I think about that and I just take a step back, that's all about building a relationship, right?
Yes,
And
that's
you can't
having
do that
that's
with one shipment.
yeah, you can. And like, and that's the thing, is like a lot of this stuff is built up like usually in transportation, it's like the first couple of shipments you're really starting to figure things out with each other. But it's like, have a lot of those things, have those conversations up front. Bring that to the, because like if I believe in the service that I'm providing to any of my clients, I'm legitimately gonna go level 10 with all of the expectations. I need to make sure that they are satisfied with what we're doing, because it's like the last minute updates on things, for example. Like
Mhm.
if I'm taking a shipment from you, you're not, as soon as you tender it over, you're not going to worry. You're not, because that good, bad, or indifferent, you're going to know what's going on. And that's one thing that I drive home with. Well, when I was brokering, that was my message. My main message was good, bad, or indifferent. I'm going to let you know what's going on. I would rather have them tell me you don't have to update us this much than me ever have, because that's what it's going to, like, that's what
Yeah.
it's always going to boil down to, is like it's just that realistic expectations of how things are. And like the people out there who aren't going to overpromise you, they're just going to tell you all this stuff up front.
Yeah. And we hear that all the time, Chris, from our clients.
Yeah.
They are they're so hungry for visibility. And
Hmm.
I don't mean a dashboard or, visibility in the relationship. Are you seeing that in your clients too?
Yeah, and like visibility is, I mean, it's one of those, it's another buzzword out there, but it's like the visibility has to work and it has to be mutually beneficial.
Mhm,
It can't just all of a sudden not work when something's going wrong. And a lot of it is like a lot of my experience is customers like you don't need hourly updates. There's certain shipments that are out there that you're going to need, more of a higher visibility of it. They just need to know what's going on in transit, like multi-day, for example. If it's a 3-day load, why aren't we sending updates on day 2 of the 3-day trend? Like to me, that's just standard. That's what you should be doing. You should be
mhm.
providing that in giving that visibility because at the end of the day, I need to know where my customer's freight is too. And those expectations are set up front with the drivers and the carriers,
Yeah.
with the right brokers.
Mhm.
They're having that. I'm having that conversation. I'm not going to source a carrier to haul my shipment if they're not on board with that. I won't even send a Raycon over because it's just not worth it. Rolling the dice with your customer's freight is just never. You got to earn it every
Yeah,
single day. You cannot accept a shipment and then just source it because I'm going to make an extra $50. You know what I mean?
yeah. Gotta have a long term
Yes.
plan, yeah.
And you can identify all of those things when you're in your upfront conversations with carriers. Like if they
Yeah.
don't know what lanes they run often, it's not somebody who I want to work with, because they're chasing a rate per mile around the country at that point.
Mhm. Well, that's a really great point. Like you said that when we were preparing for this, that, maybe, brokers or carriers that you're working with they just need to think more strategically about it.
Yes. Yeah, I agree with that. And it is because it is a long-term strategy. Because
Mhm,
the most random lanes in this country, there's a carrier who runs that specifically. And
mhm,
then it's our job to identify those, because it's like I want the carriers that are going to be running, say Charlotte to Nashville 24/7, 365. That's their region, that's what they run in. And then it's like as a broker though, like that's where our value add kind of comes in, and especially with anybody who's providing a transportation solution to a shipper or customer alike, is it's like we got to have that consistency piece, because to me that's really all that we need is like when we say a driver's going to be there at 2 p.m., have them there at 2 p.m., not 2:30, none of that stuff. Like it's got to be with those carriers that are going to be running it. They, because like identify the ones that they're incentivized due to the fact that they have a base in Nashville, for example. The driver lives in Nashville, so they're running there no matter what. That's our job to find them and present them those regionally based carriers to our shipper and customer partners.
yep, yeah. Yeah, regional carriers never look so good. I cannot tell you how many times the term regional carrier has been in
Yeah,
this office just in the last 6 weeks. It is going to be part of our customers' long-term strategies. As at least the parcel network seems to be, it's stretched.
yeah,
But to your point, the strategies that can be deployed either by brokers or some of the other customers that you're working with, those long-term strategies, finding those lanes that happen over and over again can really lead to some better pricing options, right?
100%. And like, so I had my a region that I operated in as a broker, and I had, it was Reno, Nevada, down to LA, over to Phoenix, and back up to Reno. And I was able to provide consistent pricings based off of seasonality variances to my customers
Hmm.
at that point. I'm like the spot, like, yes, there was rate fluctuations, but they were never extreme. It was within a couple $100 of each other. And my customer base at that time loved that because they could bring that to their CFO. They could put that into their metrics to ensure that they were still within budget for their transportation spend for the year. And you can't do that if you're just relying solely on the spot market to source all of your carriers.
Yeah.
Like there's a, because I know like right now, for example, there's like, oh, there's a driver shortage and everything else. I push back against that because to me, there's a spot market shortage. I know plenty of providers out there, brokers and carriers alike. They're not on the spot market because they've invested that time in actually building mutually beneficial relationships that they bring to their customers.
Hmm.
So all three of them sit down, when there is a massive market swing, they're like, all right, what do we need to be at? Let's get on the same page here and then let's go with it. Because to me, it's a simple concept overall. Carriers and customers, shippers, they all want the same thing. That's just consistency. That's
Yeah.
it.
And and you might agree with this, but the data is so much better than it
Yes.
ever was. And I think like FreightWaves was changing the game with sonar, right? You can log in and figure out where things are hot and where things are jammed up, and
Yeah.
where the capacity is.
No, definitely. I mean, data's at an all-time high. Like
Hmm.
there should never like nobody should not know what capacity is sitting at right now. That, because it's like, especially like if I was a broker right now and I was in a new market, I'm not just blindly accepting shipments.
Sure.
Like there's no way, because it's like you're only as good as your last shipment in this industry. I know, like you can do 1,000 loads perfect, but you mess one up, all of a sudden you got questions on those
Yeah.
previous 1,000 you moved. But I just think that with data being at an all-time high, with information being at an all-time high, those excuses that were around when I started in this industry are just irrelevant.
Hmm.
You can't bring those to the table anymore, because somebody can check you on it just by
Yeah.
logging into one platform.
Yeah. And there are so many other technologies out there that can
Yeah.
that can really help. Data's at an all-time high. I think technology and digital transformation is certainly emerging, in the industry, which I think is fabulous. I think that is really going to help customers hold carriers even more accountable to performance metrics.
Yeah, I agree. It's we're it's so exciting to be in transportation right now, especially because not knowing who's really out there watching right now, but I'm sure a lot of us have been in this industry for more than a couple years. We have seen that transformation from 2011 to 2015 to where we are now, and it's like we're just working out a lot of these things, and I'm pumped to see where we're going to be in the next 5 years in
Yeah,
this industry, because I don't even think we've scratched the surface, to be
I,
honest with you, because a lot of the stuff that is available right now is an improvement upon technology that was hot 5 years ago. And it's like once we compile all this data, and that, like I'm just really excited to see where that goes.
yeah, and I think it's going to happen really fast. And I think
Mhm.
that's really exciting for shippers to have those options that they didn't have before, to be able to, dial in a TMS really quickly, or, online brokerage that they can trust, or even just investing in tools that would allow them um, to your point earlier, track those shipments and figure out where it is in the country if, the customer's calling or the broker's calling and saying, hey, it's not going to get there in time.
Yeah. No, exactly. And that's the best part about it, is you're going to be able to check your providers.
Mhm.
Plain and simple. And I think like that's just going to be, the ones that bring all of this stuff to you, like that's not an area of concern to me. It's the ones where you're constantly having to reach out for updates. You're constantly having to reach out for, hey, I'm hearing from your competition that the market's shifting. What's going on here?
Right.
And that's the big thing, is it's like, like with the pricing aspect of it, like you're getting access to information now that you were just normally trusting your current provider's word at that
Mhm.
point. Then you find out, just a blanket assessment, like I've been overpaying by 300 shipments, $300 a shipment, every shipment for how long now? So it's like that is what's exciting to me, because like, the carriers out there and everything else is like, you're having more access to more of a driver base
Mhm.
now than ever, and that's just through a couple of the digital platforms that are out there. So they're putting you in direct contact with them now.
Mhm. And I think it's also, to some degree, Chris, it's like professionalizing the space. Not that it wasn't professional, but as a marketer, I'm a salesperson at heart, but I'm a marketer too. Like that gives a place for marketing in those instances. Like, what is the communication going to be? How are we going to talk to our customers? I think those are important things to think about when you're trying to source a carrier. I know we work with a couple of regional carriers, and a couple of them, man, they got it dialed in great, from their website all the way to customer communication.
Yeah, no, I agree. And that, I mean, because that's like, I'm all about the niche in this industry. Like I said, I specialize in open deck and heavy haul. Those are the only customers I was going after. I wasn't dabbling with a couple of refrigerated food, or plastics manufacturing. I did construction equipment and I did building materials, and that's it. And I specialized in that. And I identified those carriers that you're talking about right there, where it's
Mhm.
like, like no matter what my customers needed, we were able to speak about that, and we were just able to solve problems, because like honestly, that's what you are. It's a third
Yeah.
party. We're a glorified problem solver.
That's so true. That's so true. So I think even we already have a couple of takeaways, right? Like
Yeah.
set clear expectations, look to partner with someone who is strategic in nature so that you can experience better pricing and higher performance.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I think to me, it's like providing realistic pricing is the ones that are, because it's like, I just think that, the providers that are out there that take advantage of when our customers' backs are against the wall, you know,
Mm,
they had your competitor drop the ball on a shipment. Now my customer needs my help. I know I can get it covered with the same price, but I'm going to try and inch a couple hundred more out of them. That's a big red flag to me, because it's like, again, it's always going to go back to that. I'm concerned about protecting the next 12 years of the integrity of our relationship, not the next 12 minutes,
right.
you know? And that like, and if I'm selling myself on having relationships with regionally based carriers and everything else, the capacity shouldn't be a problem, because as an intermediary, that's my only job in whole reality.
Right.
So a lot of that consistency piece comes into it too. As a broker, I got to provide that consistency, whether it comes to pricing, communication, visibility, and the list goes on and on and on.
Hmm.
And that's a red flag to me. If there's not a broker out there who's not providing that consistency piece, I guarantee you there's hundreds of others that are out there who will operate more efficiently and more effectively for your organization.
Yeah, and we're strategically. I think the thing that really has shined, I don't even know if we can say post-pandemic yet or not, but
Yeah,
the integrity piece and leading with empathy, which would lead you to think about your customer first, not what you can make off of the
yeah.
next load. And so those are great call outs for people procuring carriers to think about for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the over committing, like I
Yeah.
can't live by that. Like I would rather undercommit and over deliver every single day of the week. And I know a lot of people say it, but it's one of those scenarios right now. It's fairly simple to me. If you come to me with 5 shipments and I know it can only cover 3 and I take all 5 and then knowingly roll the dice on my customer's freight, is that really a partnership at that point? Or
Yeah.
would you rather, as a broker, have me say, hey, I can cover 3, I can work on the remaining 2 and come to you with options? Or are you okay with me shipping this tomorrow? Put the power back in their hands. And that's one
Yeah.
thing that I am vehemently against is the overcommittance of capacity as a broker, because I'm not like, I'm just risking my relationship with my customers at that point. And
Hmm.
it's just never worth it, because I know how hard it is to build a book of business as a broker when you come in with nothing. And I'm not willing to risk all of the 6 to 8 months of prospecting that goes into it and building that up just to hope that I can move your freight like that. And like, I just I can't operate like that.
Yeah. And we never turn these things into a commercial, but I got to say that's one of the reasons why I was so excited to have you on this episode, Chris, is because what you're bringing to the market is not just that perspective, but you're coaching your clients to
Yeah.
to change their mindset on gaining business.
Yeah. No, I mean, to me, it's like, and I think everybody out there who's watching right now, they would all rather have their providers tell them that they can't cover a shipment
You're
than
right.
accept it and roll the dice.
Mhm.
And it's like, and I'm speaking from experience. I've made that mistake plenty of times. I thought I could do it. And then it's like, why are you waiting till 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock in the afternoon to tell me you can't pick this shipment up? And that's another thing that comes along with it is it's like the more of a heads up you can give in these scenarios, everybody wins. Like it's not going to like make the situation any better, but I think anybody out there who's watching right now would rather know 5 or 6 hours prior that they can't cover it than 5 or 6 minutes, essentially, because that's what you do. The longer you wait, the harder it is for you to source somebody to pick up that shipment for the like. And that's not even including the price. And you get that spot market price in there where it's like, oh, I was planning on paying 1,400. That's the rate you accepted. Now I have to pay $2,000 to move this load today. So it's a
Mhm.
trickle down effect right there.
Very much so. And I mean, we see it too. Being able to partner with a carrier that also understands your business. So one of the recent examples was one of our clients has refrigerated shipments of
Yeah.
raw materials. It can't be late. It cannot sit outside. It literally can't after a certain period of time, or the whole truck is bad.
Hmm.
And whoever was handling their freight just didn't understand their business. And so, is the carrier going to be invested in what's on the truck?
No, exactly. And those are the fatal errors that people who don't specialize, they'll
Yeah.
never ask that question up front. Even when they hear that, they don't think that it's a plausible scenario that somebody is going to somehow drop the ball.
Mhm.
Like you have to be protected in that situation. And like it's been a while since I moved refrigerated food, but I mean, come on, that is very like all the refrigerated food loads that I have moved in my career, that was upfront. And then I pass that along to my carriers because it's like the carriers that we want to source, that the ones that are only concerned about getting paid today, they're not going to take that. They're not going to take on that risk. But the ones that specialize in those, shelf life style shipments,
Mhm.
they're going to take it with ease.
Yeah. Well, we've got time for a couple of questions, and we
Yeah,
do have a few of them.
perfect.
Great. I don't want to run out of time. So, first question: how do I find a carrier who runs a specific route?
I would, to me, so like this is how I position it, is I would ask them specifically the lane that you're working with, ask them what days of the week they're available, and ask them what their volume on that lane is throughout the year. And
Mhm.
if they can't answer one of those three, they're not running that lane and they're just trying to identify it and hopefully provide you capacity.
Got it. Yeah. So you want to ask the right questions and remove the smoke and mirrors of
Yeah,
what's, yeah.
100%. If that's a broker that truly specializes, or a carrier alike, if they truly specialize in that Charlotte to Nashville lane, they're going to be able to provide you with data that shows what days of the week they're available, the
Mhm.
consistency piece of it, and then like their anticipated or their actual load volume through over the last 12 months. They'll be able to
Mhm.
pull that data.
Um, okay, next question. Can you expand on your thoughts on the spot rate market versus other capacity?
Yeah.
It's a good one.
No, for sure. Like the spot market's always going to be a part of this because unfortunately, like there's a lot of things that happen out there. Loads cancel last minute, and drivers are going to find themselves on the spot market. But there are lanes, like I said, like that the region that I ran in, the carriers that I sourced were rarely on the spot market because I'm coming to them with freight 2 or 3 days in advance, and I'm bringing that to my customers at that point. My carrier partners are going to tell me, hey, I'm going to be in Phoenix on Thursday. So then I'm calling all of my shippers or customers that ship out of Phoenix and saying, I have 3 or 4 trucks for you, whatever that number is on Thursday. Do you need my driver? And they already know that these are the lanes that I run, for example. Or if they don't have something in my region, they're going to, because capacity will always win in this industry. They present that. And it's just like they might run out to Dallas, for example. They want to go to, you never know. But that's the capacity that's out there, is the like when we're sourcing it as a broker, we're following up with our drivers constantly. We're always in contact with them. We know where their trucks are. It's our job as a broker to get them to not go on the spot market, and vice versa. If we find them on the spot market, it's our job to keep them off the spot market.
Yeah. Otherwise, they can just, do the one-off shipments or spend
Yeah,
time, spend
it's a great,
hours and hours.
it's a profitable business model. People work like in that, and it can work, but that doesn't solve a long-term problem for
Right.
any of my shippers.
Hmm. And then you do end up with problems, damaged
Correct.
packaging, and you can't really,
Yeah,
it's hard to keep track of all that.
exactly. And that's a whole nother conversation right there. Is the
Yeah.
damaged products one. We can go on for another hour about
Yeah.
that.
Oh, and that's why I wanted to go deeper than just the normal like 9 to 10 point scorecard metrics that
Yeah,
shippers are. It's bigger than that. It's bigger than just that score. Although those things are important,
of course.
um, it's a lot bigger.
No, definitely. And it's like, and I think like if you're, depending on your freight volume, because I know that there's some shippers out there that it just, you can't really invest that because you're moving 10,000 shipments a week or whatever that looks like. But I think if you can take the time and break down a regional metric based off of your distribution centers throughout the country, I think like the right brokers and providers alike are going to be able to give you access to those shippers. And it might mean bringing more providers into your network. And I
Mhm.
understand that not a lot of people want to do that, but I think like if you're vetting your providers the right way the first time, adding 3 or 4 more might solve a lot of the problems that you're experiencing currently with
Yeah.
your current network.
Absolutely. We talk to clients about that all the time, Chris. Let's diversify this because we know that we can find better rates here, and you're still going to get that great service that you've been provided, and you're not going to sacrifice price or service. So as
No, I agree.
long as they have a means to manage it.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, we're up on time.
Oh,
For
wow.
questions that came in, we will answer those via email. For anybody who wants Chris's contact information, we will include that in our follow-up email. And Chris, thanks so much for joining the conversation
Of
today.
course.
It was lively. It was great. I always love chatting with you and look forward to doing more things in the future.
Nah, definitely, Jamie. Thank you so much for having me today. I appreciate it.
Great. Well, to our audience, we'll hope to see you on the next Let's Talk Ship. Oh, I almost stumbled over my own words there, April 15th. So we hope to see you there.